Welcome back to the Christian Garrick Show here on WGSO, making radio great again. We welcome in now Tommy Williams. He's running for St. Tammany Parish Sheriff. Tommy, good afternoon. Thanks for the time.
Hey, Christian. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. Let's start with your background in law enforcement, if you could just outline that, please.
I'm just recently retired from Slidell PD as a lieutenant. I had 15 years here. Before that, had right at 15 years of law enforcement in Atlanta, a suburb of Atlanta. I worked for the City of Roswell Police Department. Overall, I got right at 30 years of law enforcement experience and training.
Why are you jumping in the race for St. Tammany Parish Sheriff?
I've been in the race for over a year, and this is something that I told our current sheriff 7 years ago that I had intentions on running after his two-term promise was that he made, that he wanted 2 terms. So I didn't run last time when Mr. Lentz and Mr. Tranchino ran against him. So I kept my word. It's been, this is my last step in my law enforcement career, Christian. I've made it as far as I could, being in civil service. You can't get promoted unless there's an opening. So once I made it to my 30 years, I decided to step back a little bit here and make this last step in my career to be an agency head. You start at the bottom, no matter what job it is. You always want to work your way to the top. So that's where I'm at now.
Why did the current sheriff break his 2-term promise?
He told me, and this is not hearsay, straight to my face, he said he has unfinished business. Other than that, Christian, I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask the sheriff, and I would like some other answer besides that. I wish there was 20 of us running for this job, and that he would honor his commitment.
Tommy Williams, he's running for St. Tammany Parish Sheriff here on the Christian Garrick Show. Tommy, what is your overall view as your role as a sheriff should you become the sheriff of St. Tammany Parish?
My philosophy is, we need a sheriff with integrity. We need a sheriff that will, stop the wasteful spending, will, rebuild the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office to acceptable manpower levels. And I've had people ask me, what's acceptable manpower? Well, when you're over probably somewhere close to 100 deputies short from when he took office to now, and when there's nights that there's 3 or 4 deputies working the road, that's unacceptable manpower. Not being able to work with other agencies to form joint task force. These are all some of the things that we need to do. So this is not only going to require a statewide recruiting effort, it's going to require nationwide. And I understand that there are agencies all across this nation that are shorthanded and understaffed. St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office is no different than some of these other agencies. But if you can make it a great place to work, bring in a leader with good leadership abilities and capabilities and knowledge and training to go with that, and surround himself with great people in the same aspects, St. Tammany Parish is going to be a great place to work, and that's one of my primary goals.
Why are they so short? I would think that St. Tammany Parish is a pretty desirable gig to, as a sheriff deputy. I would imagine that that's pretty attractive.
Well, at one time it was, Christian, and it was a great place to work. Some of the deputies there now they don't think that way. It's not all about money. You're not a policeman to get rich. You do this for, selfless service. I can tell you that the Slidell Police Department has hired 11 deputies from the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office in the last year and 8 months, 9 months time frame. One being a lieutenant, one being a sergeant. And out of those 11, one of them was selected as Officer of the Year last year for the Slidell Police Department. So we're not getting, just the average, person applying for the job. We're getting the cream of the crop.
So you mentioned the manpower shortages. What other issues do you think face the administration that's currently in place at the Sheriff's Office?
Some of the things that we need to reanalyze or redefine or relook at our budget. We're buying toys and things that the next sheriff, whether it be Randy, myself, or the other gentleman that's running for this job, we're going to assume all of those assets that are already bought and paid for. But do we have the finances to continue to maintain that equipment? Command centers that sit in a building all year plugged into the electricity that we only take out during Christmas and Mardi Gras parades. I don't really think was a wise use of $1.5 million of taxpayer money. If I need a command center anywhere in this state, we pick up the phone, we call the Louisiana State Police. It's called duplication of services. They have an asset that would be readily available for us within an hour. Just pick up the phone and call, and it would be there in an hour's notice. So I don't think that we need that, because it wasn't a good thing. We have boats, Marine Division. We have an outstanding Marine Division. Nothing against those guys, but I think we could do better with a little bit less equipment that get used a lot more. There's over 241 miles of navigable waterway in St. Tammany Parish that should go patrolled just about every day or every other day. We have boats that are made to run in open ocean water, not up in these bayous and streams and things that we have around the parish.
Tommy Williams, running for St. Tammany Parish Sheriff. Tommy, I want to know from a national perspective, we saw the attacks on police officers 3 years ago. Like what I mean by the idea of defunding police, the idiocy of that just never made sense to me at all. And how much will you fight for your deputies when some of these national interests come into town? If one of your deputies does something that was probably in the right for, but causes national attention, how much are you willing to fight for your deputies?
I'm willing to. I'll be the first one to stand up in front of all these microphones, radio shows, TV shows. It doesn't matter, face to face. And if my deputies are right, I will be there for them 110%. If my deputies are wrong, the public will be the first ones to know. Part of my platform is to be totally crystal clear and transparent. Most of our deputies, or all of them now, wear body cams. That footage should be released as soon as possible. I understand that if it's an ongoing investigation, we can't do certain things, but there are times when issues like this arise that would prevent us from going into some kind of state of emergency in St. Tammany Parish and having our public up in arms, that if we could show that and get that out there, we could stop that. But again, one of my guys is right. I know he's right. He's 100% right. I'm with them. If they're wrong, I'm going to be the first one to tell them you're wrong, and you're going to suffer the consequences for your actions. I mean, there's no other way to do it, Christian. In this day and age, when you mentioned the defunding the police, that's where that came from, because people are not willing to stand up and say they're wrong. They're always willing to stand up and say they're right. So we got to be both. It's got to be both ways, in my opinion. So I'm there for them. I'll be the first one to stand in line and take that bullet if necessary. But if it's their bullet, they're going to take it.
Tommy Williams, he's running for St. Tammany Parish Sheriff. Tommy, do you offhand have the crime rate on the North Shore or in certain areas? Do you know that, just what that is?
Christian, the crime is on the rise everywhere across the United States. St. Tammany Parish is not immune to that. With this current fentanyl epidemic that we have running rampant, now we have car fentanyl out there, which is a synthetic form. I mean, it's crazy. So one thing leads to the next. You start out with minor crime, it goes to major crime. There are 59 serious crimes delineated in Louisiana revised statutes that dictate what should be made public, in my opinion. We're not getting all those 59 crimes. We're going to get the ones that make the news. So one of my things is to have that published on a weekly, monthly, or daily basis, if necessary, to the public to see where we're at with burglaries, with vehicle burglaries, with residential burglaries, with armed robberies, with kidnappings, rapes, murders, manslaughter, all of those crimes that are delineated in those 59, the distribution of fentanyl is also listed as a serious crime under those 59 titles. Whenever they make a fentanyl arrest, that should be made public, where it came from, how it got to this community. If it's part of an investigation, of course, we can't do that, but, it should be, the public should be made aware of everything that's going on. That way, when I need the public's assistance, I know that they've got my back.
Tommy, sit tight. I got a couple more questions for you. We'll get some commercials and then reconvene our conversation. Tommy Williams, running for St. Tammany Parish Sheriff. This is the Christian Garrick Show on WGSO. We're visiting with Tommy Williams, candidate for St. Tammany Parish Sheriff. Tommy, I want to talk to you about proactive police work. I want to talk to you about proactive police work. In my limited experience as a police officer, when those deputies, our police officers, are proactive in trying to make contact with folks that are out and about, man, it just seems like it helps prevent a lot of crime. Is that a philosophy you share?
Yes, sir. Visibility is key. And you, having former law enforcement experience, understand that being visible is the key to deterring crime. Sitting on the side of the road, typing your report, traffic's running past you, doing the speed limit. Most people see a policeman sitting on the side of the road, sheriff's deputy, state trooper, whatever it happens to be. First thing they're going to do is take that right foot off that gas, put it on that brake pedal a little bit, slow down, because they think, of course, you're doing speed enforcement, but you're sitting there typing reports. So maybe one of those cars that's passing in front of your vehicle was going to go do a burglary down the road, or, do a home invasion, or do a drug deal, or anything. But they know that there is a sheriff's deputy, police officer, trooper, whatever, sitting right down the street. They're going to go somewhere else. That gets back to my manpower levels. We've got to have people to be able to do that. And if we are shorthanded, we need to be more visible on the high traffic areas. That prevents and deters the criminals from committing crimes here in St. Tammany Parish. We want to keep this place a safe place to work. And God bless them, we have 5 outstanding agencies here. We got Madisonville, Covington, Mandeville, Pearl River PD, Folsom, Slaughter PD on their game. I just retired from there, so I know about proactive police work. It's been my whole career, is to be out here and be proactive. And it's not saying write everybody a ticket, take everybody to jail. It's all about making contact with the community, letting them know who you are, and that you're there for them anytime they need them. And then hopefully when we need them, they'll be there for us.
Tommy, you told me something interesting in our conversations off the air leading up to this appearance today about what you're going to do with the door of your office. Explain.
Christian, everybody says they're going to have an open door policy. They're going to be transparent, the typical elected official things. My door is coming off the hinges, Christian. I'm going to bring it down the hallway somewhere. We're going to put it in a closet. I want everybody at that sheriff's office to know that is listening to this right now, or may listen to it at a later time, you will have access to your sheriff. No more making appointments and all this other kind of happy nonsense. If you have something on your mind that needs to come to me, and me alone, I will definitely be there for you. That door will be gone. If I need to use a conference room for a private conversation, I'm sure I can find one somewhere. So just to let them know, I'm going to be there for them. We're going to make this work. Everybody that's there is going to be, have some place that they can talk to their sheriff any time of the day. They'll all have my cell phone numbers. They'll give me a bat phone for the sheriff's office, and most people will have this personal number as well.
Tommy, you mentioned task forces with other agencies being an issue in this current administration at Sheriff. Expand upon that. What do you feel like needs to be done in terms of some of these task forces?
The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer in this parish. He has total jurisdiction over St. Tammany Parish. He can go anywhere. It doesn't matter what city he's in. He can go anywhere he wants to. With that being said, I can bring an officer from Madisonville. I can bring one from Mandeville, one from Pearl River, a couple from Slidell, a couple from Covington, and form a task force. Any kind of task force, just let your police mind run wild. So if I need a traffic management task force, we got the 3 E's in traffic management. Education, is one. Engineering is another one, and then enforcement. So if I need a traffic unit to go work a high traffic area in the mornings during rush hours to help move vehicles a lot faster to get them from point A to point B quicker in the morning and in the afternoon, we can make that happen. But it's hard with limited resources at the sheriff's office, 10 or 11 guys that work in traffic, to do that by themselves with such a large parish. So by bringing in the other agencies, we can do that. If we need a drug task force, we can partner with the Alphabet Police, DEA, FBI, whatever you want to imagine, ATF. We're going to have associations with them to where we can work with those guys outside the parish as well as inside the parish, but we can also, have more people out there to do the drug enforcement type work. If it's I think the sheriff just put somebody on a financial crimes task force, he assigned a captain to that task force. In my opinion, and that's my opinion alone, why would you assign a captain? A captain is upper management. That is a ranking supervisor. You should put a patrolman or a corporal or even as high as a sergeant on that task force. So you got somebody out there beating the pavement, working hand in hand with the other agencies to make that task force function the way I think it needs to. But, we can do just about anything that in law enforcement that you want, but it takes a whole bunch of us working together to make this function. So as I've said in different forms and at different times, one St. Tammany, not east and west. One St. Tammany. We're going to bring everybody together from the parish president to the lowest ranking police officer at any agency, and we're going to make this happen. We're going to keep St. Tammany safe when I'm your sheriff.
Tommy, if there's anybody interested in joining your campaign or getting a sign or what have you, where can they go for that information?
I want to give you my personal cell phone number first. It's 985-288-7694. Of course, I have all the social media platforms. Facebook, it's Tommy, Tommy, the number 4, STP Sheriff. And then I have a Gmail account, which is Tommy, the number 4, STP Sheriff @gmail.com.
Tommy, anything I didn't ask that you want to make sure you put out?
Christian, just know the election is coming up October the 14th. I'm asking, for anyone who's listening to this, for your vote, for your support and confidence. Check me out on Facebook. Look at all of my qualifications. I don't have enough time to go into them all here. Christian and I talked for a while one day, and he understands where I came from. I got military background, law enforcement background. I just want to know I'm working hard every day to make this happen. It's an uphill battle. I understand that. I've never backed down from anything, Christian. You're a Marine. I'm a sailor.
Tommy, I certainly get it. Thank you again for your service. Tommy Williams, St. Tammany Parish Sheriff. We'll get you on again as election day gets closer. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Christian.